Hello there YouTube, Sea Monsters here with another traditional slip joint knife video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a fairly new knife. Came out in 2013. It is Great Eastern Cutlery's Northfield Unexcelled Ranch Hand. The version that you see before you is one of several different versions that are available. Typically Great Eastern Cutlery will make most of their knives in at least the Tittyute Cutlery and Northfield Cutlery brands. Sometimes it extends over into Great Eastern Cutlery's home brand. If you guys need to know the difference between those brands, you can either send me a PM, look it up on the internet, but Great Eastern Cutlery makes knives under those three brands. They also do some private label work, or at least have in years past, for some other cutlery companies' products. So the version again that you're looking at is a natural stag knife. It comes in this tube, early 1900s artwork, which I've always liked. And on the back it has a label that talks about the methodology that they use on their natural stag, and talks about the importer, the fact that he's very experienced and he goes to great lengths to pick the very best stag for Great Eastern Cutlery. And then it goes on to also explain some of the lengths that Great Eastern Cutlery goes to make sure that the knives have well-matched stag handle scales. And when we talk about well-matched, we're talking about that both the presentation side and the reverse side, which is what you're looking at now, have very similar materials in terms of coloration and texture. You can see here that these literally are perfectly matched. Beautiful, beautiful job. This isn't a large knife. It's closed length from the butt to the front bolster. The end of the front bolster is 3 13/16. Its overall length when the blades are open is 6 7/8 of an inch, almost 7 inches. So it's still a fairly small knife. It is somewhat heavy, but not terribly heavy. It's 3.7 ounces. So hopefully that gives you kind of an idea of its size. It's not a big knife, which makes it really a great choice for everyday carry, because it's not too big, too heavy, but yet it's big enough that most of the tasks any of us would encounter on a day-to-day basis it can handle. The height of the knife at the rear, the butt end of it, is 0.863 of an inch, so a little under an inch. At the front it's 0.65, which is just shy of 5/8 of an inch. If you don't know how big that is, get a tape measure or a ruler. You can look it up online to see how to read it. If you really want, I can do a video on tape measures and rulers and explain to you how those things work. I'm not saying that to demean anyone. So a lot of people just never use those instruments, and so they're not measuring things every day, and they don't know what I'm saying when I read off those dimensions. So again, if any of you need me to do that, let me know and I'll be happy to help you out. This is a two-bladed knife. You can see that they're perfectly centered. The construction of the knife is stag handle scale, brass liner, blade and back spring, mid brass liner, blade and back spring, outer brass liner, and then another handle scale. The bolster, front bolster here, is nickel silver. It has 3 flutes in it. It is chamfered and radiused, which makes it very comfortable. That means when it's sitting in your pocket, if my clock could get done, I wouldn't be competing with it for volume. Okay, here we go. You can see that it's radiused and chamfered. If you stare at that, you can see how it's rounded, very comfortable. This knife is serialized. Not all of Great Eastern Cutlery's knives are serialized. Just because they're serialized doesn't mean that they're more valuable than those that aren't. Greg from TSA Knives, you can look him up on YouTube. He has a video that explains that concept, so I won't get into it here. Polished steel back springs. The back springs are pretty thick. They are 0.09 of an inch, so pretty thick. And when I say how thick they are, what I'm talking about is dimension in between these two liners and these two liners. Brass pins, nickel silver shield. It is pinned on, not glued. It has a full tubed brass lanyard ring. This knife features half stops, which means they have a squared tang, and when you go to open them, they stop at the 90-degree opening mark, and when you go to close them, they stop at the 90-degree opening mark, which means they're not as likely to cut you if the blade folds. I mean, the truth of the matter is, modern locking knives, particularly for harder cutting tasks, are certainly safer than slip joints. But with Great Eastern Cutlery's back spring strengths on most of their knives, this one included, it's strong enough that for most of the cutting tasks we do in everyday life, they'll handle most of that with ease. What you're looking at here is the secondary blade. It is a spay blade, 1095 high carbon with a mirror polish on it. The tang stamp here, by the way, the tang is right here where I'm pointing, is 74 12 13. 74 is the pattern number denoting ranch hand. Well, actually 74 has been used for a couple of different patterns for Great Eastern Cutlery, but that's the name of this one. 1 represents the the main blade's shape. This isn't the main blade, this is a secondary blade, so it's a spay blade. 2 is the number of blades, and the last 2 digits in the 6-digit number on the tang are 13. It was manufactured in 2013. I've been collecting slip joint knives for over 40 years. Great Eastern Cutlery's numbering system on their knives is the best of any I've encountered. It's the clearest, the easiest to follow, and the least confusing. Okay, so there we go in the closed position. We'll open the main blade. It is a clip blade. By the way, the secondary blade has a nail neck in it. This blade, which is the main blade, has a long pole, though it is a shorter long pole than I'm used to. It's clip shaped. It has a swedge, nicely done. Squared off tang, and there it is. You heard the snap in the open position. The blade has an etch on it that says Natural Unexcelled Stag. The front of it says Northfield Unexcelled, the front of it being the front tang. The rear tang says Great Eastern Cutlery, Titusville, Pennsylvania. You can see that the swedge on the back there, at least I hope you can see it. If not, I'll turn it that way. Maybe that's a little easier for you. Beautifully done, beautifully polished. Candidly, Case has one thing up on Great Eastern Cutlery, and that is its blade polish. While Case does some things that frankly aren't that good, they're getting better, and they've been around forever. So like many companies, they'll have stints where the product's very good, and then other times when it's not very good and the product quality is poor. And with Case, kind of like Great Eastern Cutlery, you have different levels of product. However, one difference between Case and Great Eastern Cutlery is that the quality, build quality of the knives is not the same at every level. With Great Eastern Cutlery it is. But Case gets the blade polishing advantage over Great Eastern. They just have a little better polish on it. I found that with Great Eastern Cutlery, and this example has it, you probably can't see it in the camera, but it has little swirls from the polishing machine. And really that's all Great Eastern Cutlery needs to address to make their knives really that next rung of better than the rest. They could also add some bushings in between the liners and the blades to get rid of the rub at the blade tang. I'm not going to get into explaining what that is. If you've ever collected slip joints, you'll know. But basically, opening and closing the blade causes it to rub against the brass liners and the other parts of the frame of the knife, and so you have rub marks. At the very high end with custom slip joints, they use bushing, so you don't have that. Those are the only two things, as a knife collector of 40 plus years, I could tell you that Great Eastern Cutlery could do better. Other than that, their products are amazing, just breathtaking in their beauty, quality, and variations. In my hand is another version. It is a wood-handled edition. Generally, the wood-handled versions are going to be much less expensive than the stag-handled ones, particularly the natural stag. This is Cocobolo. Beautiful, beautiful handle scales. And they did an awesome job of picking the wood to use for this. I mean, the grain pattern is rich and beautiful. The color is perfect. The finish, it's a rubbed satin kind of finish, just smooth and warm. And oh, when I say warm, what I'm talking about is not that it's warm to the touch. What I'm talking about is that wood has a warmth to it that no other material has. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. And if you've never considered, if you're a slip joint knife collector and you've never considered a wood-handled knife, I really encourage you to take another look at them, particularly Great Eastern Cutlery's versions. They do it better than anybody else by far. And these are amazing knives. All right, well, there you have it. I could go on and on and on about this, but you don't have that much time, and neither do I. So, hope you enjoyed this. Take it easy. See you later.